In late February 2026, the United States and Israel launched Operation Epic Theory, unleashing thousands of coordinated airstrikes across Iran. By traditional metrics, the campaign achieved its primary military objectives almost immediately. Precision strikes successfully eliminated Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei and neutralized the top tier of Iran's political and military command. Yet, by April, the expected surrender never materialized. Instead, the global economy buckled as retaliatory strikes sent oil prices surging and fractured international shipping routes. With just 90 minutes remaining before a deadline to initiate an even wider bombing campaign, President Trump abruptly paused the offensive, agreeing to a 2-week ceasefire. This 11th-hour diplomatic lifeline was secured by an unlikely mediator, Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. A heavily sanctioned regional power forced a superpower to the negotiating table by abandoning conventional warfare for a strategy specifically engineered to absorb the shock of an all-out assault. Iran has spent over 2 decades preparing for this exact scenario. After watching the rapid collapse of Saddam Hussein's centralized military in neighboring Iraq, Iranian leadership realized a conventional defense against the United States was impossible. Their solution is the Mosaic Doctrine. Instead of a rigid top-down hierarchy, Iran fractured its military into 31 independent provincial commands. When American strikes silenced the capital, the war didn't end. Those 31 regional cells simply lit up, executing pre-planned resistance operations on their own. This ghost command structure is physically shielded by the country's imposing geography. The Zagros Mountains form a massive, rugged barrier along Iran's western border, acting as a natural fortress against both ground invasions and aerial bombardment. Deep beneath these peaks, Iran constructed sprawling subterranean missile cities, complex networks of tunnels and launch sites buried under hundreds of feet of solid rock, rendering them nearly immune to American bunker busters. Traditional military decapitation strikes fail when an enemy force is designed to survive without a head and hide deep within the earth. Beyond geography, Iran waged a war of extreme economic attrition, bleeding the American defense budget through a calculated imbalance in military spending. The primary weapon of choice for this strategy is the Shahed drone, a rudimentary but effective munition that costs about $20,000 to produce. This chart compares the cost of Iran's primary strike weapon to the price of stopping it. Neutralizing a single $20,000 drone requires a $4 million interceptor, while missing one can cost a $300 million radar system. But Iran's ultimate leverage relies on holding the global energy economy hostage rather than confronting U.S. forces head-on. The most critical geographic hostage is the Strait of Hormuz. By simply threatening shipping in this narrow 33-kilometer choke point, Iran can freeze the transit of roughly a fifth of the world's daily oil supply. The second major target is the civilian infrastructure of U.S. allied Gulf states, particularly their coastal desalination plants, which supply 60% of the region's drinking water and remain highly vulnerable to cheap drone swarms. By aiming their inexpensive arsenal at vital regional infrastructure instead of heavily armored American bases, Iran drove the global economic cost of continuing the war well past what Washington was willing to pay. The imminent threat to Gulf water and global oil supplies triggered widespread panic among U.S. allies, creating a desperate diplomatic vacuum that Pakistan stepped in to fill. Pakistan was uniquely positioned to mediate. It is the only Muslim country with nuclear weapons, It shares a long, porous border with Iran, and it recently signed a mutual defense pact with Saudi Arabia. The upcoming peace talks in Islamabad face completely opposed demands. The United States insists on a total cessation of Iran's nuclear enrichment program, while Tehran demands full war reparations and the complete withdrawal of American forces from the region. The total incompatibility of these demands leaves the ceasefire on a knife edge. Any failure to reach a compromise in Islamabad before Friday's deadline triggers an immediate return to full-scale war. If these negotiations collapse and the 2-week pause dissolves back into full-scale combat, the resulting economic fallout will extend far beyond energy markets. The conflict zone is home to deeply hidden supply chain bottlenecks, such as the Ras Laffan industrial complex in Qatar. This single facility produces roughly 40% of the global supply of helium. Any disruption there would immediately throttle worldwide semiconductor manufacturing and halt the production of medical MRI machines. The stalemate of Operation Epic Fury demonstrates that raw firepower no longer guarantees quick victories. In a highly connected, asymmetric battlefield, the era of easy superpower dominance has met its limits.